Hey guys, welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles! In the last episode, we entered Madame Tusspells, and now we're here with Mr. Sholmes, performing a dance of deduction. Let's just get into it!
To begin with, we must ask ourselves what exactly is afoot here in this museum. The answer is revealed by the bundle of banknotes protruding so helpfully from your bag. In my estimation, some £200?
That is all my own money.
So what does this large sum of money reveal? Not as much as the involuntary glance you cast it would seem, Madame Tusspells. Yes, the answer lies where your eyes now fall. The significance of the £200 is revealed by the public notice. Waxwork for sale? Your business has hit hard times, it would seem. In short, you sold the famous killer, the centerpiece of your special exhibit, for the sum of £200.
No!
Now, let us explore the next curiosity with which we are presented. Who is this portly gentleman stretched out so peacefully on the floor? It would appear the man has suffered a severe shock, the cause of which is clearly known to you.
Oh!
Unfortunately, madam, keeping secrets does not appear to be your forte. What dealt the man such a shocking blow was of course, the £200. It would appear that you twisted the gentleman around your little finger most effectively.
What are you suggesting?
He rashly agreed to purchase the waxwork for the sum of £200. Only when he came to hand the money over did it occur to him what an extortionate amount he was paying. But the money was no longer in his hands. And the result? The scene we see before us. He collapsed in shock. Yes, the killer is in this special exhibit fetched a killer price. We can only pray that the gentleman's dreams are not plagued with regret.
Conclusion, sold for cash. Topic 2. Waxwork location.
The question that arises then is what has become of the waxwork that changed hands? Let us consider the problem for a moment.
You cannot possibly.
What immediately strikes me about this conundrum is the young man standing over there. Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only to observe his neckerchief. Such as is worn by policemen as secret sign to fellow members of the force that a crime is being perpetrated. Yes, this young man is an undercover policeman, currently investigating this museum. I know him well, in fact. It's Sergeant John Clay.
What are you talking about?
The man's quite a celebrity. He received triple accolades at last year's policing awards.
But...
Next, we turn our attention to the old man sat before him with a particularly unsightly visage. I've been watching closely and he hasn't moved a muscle, almost in fact as he were a waxwork.
But you...
Your reaction only confirms my suspicions, madame. I noticed it at once, of course. Observe. The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is the obvious price tag. Threepence, a tragically low price, you might say, though perhaps the going rate for aging waxworks riddled with cracks. And yet you sold it to the portly gentleman for an exorbitant £200. The sort of plucky behavior that's sure to attract the attention of Scotland Yard, isn't that so, madame?
I do not...
Yes, the waxworks you sold has already been seized by the police and remains in this custody as we speak. The old man must be reunited with his grave in the special exhibit, and not a moment too soon.
Discovered already.
Thus concludes Sherlock Sholmes' great deduction of this horrifying puzzle.
Well, we'll see about that, Mr. Sholmes.
I see I've stunned you all into silence.
You have, Hurley, you have. And you've obviously upset this young lady in the process. Her cauldron looks awfully hot. If I could just bring up one point, Mr. Sholmes.
Ah, the notorious Naruto, 1 point. I'm all ears, my dear fellow.
According to your deduction, then, the special exhibit featured this old policeman. So that would mean that he's the particularly ruthless murderer, wouldn't it?
The killer policeman, Otomo.
Sorry?
It was a mysterious series of murders that rattled the capital only last year. The police rushed to the scene every time only to find the culprit had disappeared into the ether.
And it turned out the culprit was a policeman himself, a senior officer by the name of Otomo. So you mean that's who the sinister-looking old man there is supposed to be?
Indeed, it is a particularly grim face, is it not? Unforgettable, in fact. Yes, I remember that odious countenance only too well.
But is £200 a lot of money for a wax model?
It would be enough to afford one of the latest steam carriages if that puts things in perspective.
So it is quite a lot then. Is there anything else you wish to add? Before I melt you down? That bubbling wax is looking more and more ominous. Oh, the smell of all that molten wax is starting to worry me. Mr. Sholmes did more or less just accuse her to her face, so I think I might have to call on your assistance here, Iris, if that's alright. To make some more minor corrections to the great detective's great deductions. Of course it's alright. We'll soon set things straight. Well, let's get started then, shall we? Yeah, there we go. Before Madame Tusspells vents her anger.
Just what I was waiting to hear, my dear fellow. So, Madame Tusspells, in accordance with our agreement, you shall now have the pleasure of seeing this famously great detective and temporary exhibit at work.
Course correction. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. Topic 1. Waxworks fade. Is it really sold for cash?
To begin with, we must ask ourselves what exactly is afoot here in this museum. The answer is revealed by the bundle of banknotes protruding so helpfully from your bag. My estimation, some £200. That is all my own money. So what does this large sum of money reveal? Ah, not as much as the involuntary glance you cast it would seem, Madame Tusspells. Yes, the answer lies where your eyes now fall. The significance of the £200 is revealed by the public notice.
She definitely looked in this direction, it's true. But I'm not sure she'd sell any of her waxworks even for £200. Oh? She must pour her heart and soul into making them, don't you think? Over and above the wax. If it were me, I wouldn't sell them for anything. For that much money, I would. But it sounds like that makes me a bad person. Well, anyway, I wonder if the £200 could have some other significance. Let's follow that furtive glance again and see if there's anything else that could explain it. Well, let's have a look at the public notice first. Waxwork for sale. Would anyone really buy models of mass murderers? I think I'd rather have £200 in my pocket. Exactly, you could buy one of those brand new types of steam carriage. That's what I'd spend it on if I had it, no question. Oh, but I'd buy the haps in the world. There must be another explanation for the money. We need to keep looking. Alright, so what else is there? Is there something over here? Can we even... Yes, we can. Aha, the significance is revealed by the note on the wall. But we, of course, are going to have a look at the portly man first. Is there anything else? No. Let's have a look at the portly man first. It seems this well-dressed gentleman is alive after all, just not alive and kicking. And he's not a waxwork or a model of a mass murderer. I'm not sure that I'd pay £200 for him. I don't think the man's up for sale. Well, anyway, it was a silly place to put him. Other museum visitors could easily trip.
I don't think the man was put there on purpose either. Yeah, that is true. It's very unlikely. Very, very unlikely. So we have a look at the at this thing first.
What's that note doing pinned on the wall there?
Oh yes, let's see. Dear Madame Tusspells, we've taken the prisoner from this room. The price for his safe return is £200. Have the money ready by noon on 23rd October.
What?
It's just like the sort of thing that's left behind when someone is kidnapped.
Yes, it's a ransom note.
Exactly. Well, a ransom note. So, is there going to be new dialogue if we click on this? No, there is not. We've taken the prisoner from this room. The price for his safe return is £200. Have the money ready by noon on 23rd October.
Can't deny it. That's a very well written ransom note, clear and concise.
And the ransom amount is £200. Well, that says everything, right? So let's present that ransom note. The significance of the £200 is revealed by the ransom note. Quite so, we must congratulate these criminals on their inventiveness abducting a waxwork.
Oh!
£200 is no small ransom fee, yet you clearly intend to pay it.
The model in question has special importance, so I put together all the money I have.
In summary then, the £200 you have in your handbag is ransom money. Now let us explore the next curiosity with which we are presented. Who is the portly gentleman stretched out so peacefully on the floor? It would appear the man has suffered a severe shock, the cause of which is clearly known to you.
Oh!
Unfortunately, madam, keeping secrets does not appear to be your forte. What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the £200. So if the waxwork was kidnapped, what does that leave us in terms of who this man is?
We could just ask him when he comes round.
I think the point of this exercise is to understand the beauty of the deduction process, Iris.
Yes, you're right. Hurley's trying so hard. We mustn't let him down.
Well, there's little doubt that he suffered a shock. That much seems clear. But in that case, what's Madame Tusspells trying to hide? Let's have a closer look around. Well, what is she trying to hide? So we could do this. Hand. Her hand. Long hair braid. Let's have a look at the long hair braid. Madame Tusspells has very long hair, doesn't she?
Yes, but you couldn't looking at her from the front.
You know, it looks rather like a whip, don't you think? The sort of whip that could have floored the gentleman with a single crack.
That seems a little far-fetched, even for you, Runo.
Yeah, okay. So, she is hiding this hand, but this doesn't seem to be like her hand. No, that's not her hand, that's another hand, so... But is there something else we can check out on her? She's a very beautiful woman, by the way. Beautiful and dangerous, it appears, being a witch and all. So, it doesn't seem like that. Let's have a look at the hand of Madame first.
This is just Madame Tusspells' right hand, isn't it?
Yes, it must be. I can clearly see her left hand after all.
Oh, but wait a minute. This is the left hand as well, look.
Don't say such creepy things, Iris, please.
And it seems very stiff too. In fact, it's really hard.
You mean it's made of wax? Wax handwork. And we're gonna have a look at that like immediately. Immediately, of course, because there's going to be new dialogue.
This is just Madame Tusspells' right hand, isn't it?
Yes, it must be. I can clearly see her left hand after all.
Oh, but wait a minute. This is the left hand as well, look.
It's the same dialogue, but I can't skip it. Because the program identifies this as a new item which hasn't been clicked on, so a little unfortunate, but we're gonna present that, of course, immediately. The waxwork hand.
What dealt that man such a shocking blow was, of course, the waxwork hand.
Indeed, with a solid waxwork limb, one could deliver a very substantial blow.
How could you? The hand protruding from the bottom of your cape. It ought to be a right hand, but closer inspection reveals that in fact it's a left hand. Oh!
And somewhat masculine as well. In other words, it does not belong to you, madam. It is the hand of a waxwork model.
Yeah! Some of the visitors to my museum can be troublesome. They meddle with the exhibits and cause damage. So you mean that, Yes, this gentleman saw fit try to remove it as a souvenir.
So no small keepsake.
Like taking a whole branch of a cherry tree when you go to view the blossoms. I am afraid I have to teach the man a lesson. He confronted the man and tried to take the arm back.
And the result? The scene was seen before us. He was knocked unconscious. A point we may need to revisit later, but for the time being we have our conclusion. Yes, the killer in this special exhibit has been kidnapped.
Alright, solved. Okay, so the waxwork location is not discovered already.
The question that arises then is what has become of the waxwork that changed hands? Let us consider the problem for a moment.
You cannot possibly.
What immediately strikes me about this conundrum is the young man standing over there. Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his neckerchief.
According to Mr. Sholmes, the yellow neckerchief is a sign of to other policemen that some crime is underway. A way of communicating with the colleagues without revealing his identity, yes. It's a secret that's closely guarded by Scotland Yard. That Mr. Sholmes didn't hesitate to give away. Well, uncovering secrets is in any true detective's nature, of course. Right. Anyway, judging from Madame Tusspells' reaction to Mr. Sholmes' deduction, I think perhaps we might not have identified the man quite correctly. So... let's have a look at the neckerchief first, because we know that's wrong. A secret scarf assigned to warn other agents of ongoing crime. I know! It sounds so thrilling, doesn't it? Maybe I'll try to work it in next month's installment. But then the police's secret will be revealed to all of London's 6 million inhabitants. Well, they'll just have to come up with a new sign, I suppose. How does this 10-year-old manage to have such terrifying influence? Okay, alright, so... what about the flat cap, then? I've seen hats like this in Japan as well. They're called flat caps, aren't they? Yes, or hunting caps. Hurley's the hat is called a deer stalker, by the way. Hunting, stalking, the British certainly seem keen on catching game. Every time I see a deer stalker, I automatically think of Mr. Sholmes. But a flat cap makes me think of Japanese country gentlemen somehow. In other words, people from all walks of life wear all different types of hat. So that doesn't really help us. Yes, that was quite clear that wouldn't help us. What about the... okay. So is there anything here that helps us? No, there is not. Aha! So we know about the shoulder stub. So it is the shoulder stub. Okay, let's talk about it first. What the... the man has a stub sticking out of his shoulder where his arm should be. Oh, well that settles then. Right, this isn't a real person at all. His entire arm's been ripped off from the shoulder down. His arm's been... of course, that ties in what we just found out. Well, let's...
take that!
present that then. Shoulder stuff. Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his shoulder stuff.
No such boneless human walks this earth. Of that, I can assure you. In other words, the man standing here, the young Sergeant John Clay, is in fact, defying all odds, a waxwork model.
I seem to remember it was you who concluded he was a real person in the first place, Mr. Sholmes. He has become quite a celebrity in London, being the winner of no less than 3 policing awards last year. I simply had to make a model of the man.
Naturally, what other explanation could there be?
And it was this detective's arm that was pulled off by the man on the floor in the special exhibit, wasn't it?
Next, we turn our attention to the old man sat before him with a particularly unsightly visage. I've been watching closely and he hasn't moved a muscle, almost in fact, as if he were a waxwork.
Oh, but you...
Your reaction only confirms my suspicions, madame. I noticed it at once, of course. Observe! The telltale sign that this instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is an obvious price tag.
A killer policeman called Otomo, was it? Was he well known? It was all over the papers last year, but I can't say I know what he looks like. It's a very low price though. Threepence isn't much money. Only enough for a few measly hours of gas in Mr. Garrett's delightful lodgings, in fact. So this is the special killer taken from the special exhibit, is it? The waxwork that somebody stole from the museum and tried to ransom for £200. Is this crusty old killer policeman Otomo? Really? Perhaps we should have a good look around again and see if another idea crops up. We'll have a look at the price tag first. 3 pence. It's a far cry from £200, isn't it? For threepence, you could buy it and put it on display in your room, Bruno. I think I'd rather not go to sleep being watched by an old man if it's all the same to you. The price tag doesn't stand out, does it? I mean, you couldn't even buy the helmet on his head for that much money, I don't think. I wonder what the price tag's really for then. Okay, so he has a twitching leg. Or his leg is twitching. What about scarf on the arm? I don't believe it. It's a secret sign that lets other detectives know some criminal activity is underway. Yes, it's a slightly strange choice of outfit if he was trying to go unnoticed. Oh, he must be detective disguised as a policeman. Or a detective disguised as a waxwork model of a policeman. He doesn't look like he's clever enough to think of something like that, though. Perhaps you should try to be a little more polite about him, Iris. Alright. Can we? No, we can't. Okay, I thought maybe we can... Okay, so... What about the twitch? Look at this! The old man's tapping his foot like crazy! He seems to be fast asleep, though! He's not tapping his foot consciously, then? So you mean... It must be a twitch! Never mind that. Point is, waxworks don't tap their feet. Or twitch. And look at this arm. And look at his arm, too. We've seen a scarf like that somewhere else around here, haven't we? Well, it's not the twitch. It is the scarf on the arm. Oh, it's not. Oh, I was wrong. According to you, Mr. Sholmes, a scarf like this is a secret sign used between undercover detectives. So perhaps this is the famous plainclothes detective, Sergeant John Clay.
Mr. Naruhodo, pray, what part of this man's outfit would you call plain clothes? And I believe I described the man as young, too. It was only last year that I saw him being awarded his triple accolades at the policing awards. They say detective work can age a man, but this would be extreme, I'm sure you'll agree.
Well, I know I suddenly feel 10 years older after that. So, we finally know now that if we mess up, we lose a star. We just poured a little bit more wax on me, we'd soon find out was he really or not. Yes, you never know, there may be another way. We've already come this far, so maybe we should stick to logical deductions, don't you think? Alright, if that's the way you want to do it, then we should examine him in more detail. If anyone saw, they'd think we are obsessed with the elderly. Okay, so it has to be this twitch because we can't make out anything else. Right? It's not the scarf, it's not the price tag. So it is the twitch, indeed. Which is actually logical, I'm so stupid.
Take that!
The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is the obvious twitch. Even the most realistic waxworks do not exhibit a twitch.
In other words, this splendid old man is in fact a genuine member of Scotland Yard.
Slight shift in your choice of adjectives, then.
And there you have it, well, Madame Tusspells.
Well, what? It was me who contacted the police and demanded that someone come in the first place. He is clearly fatigued. He is sound asleep.
But then, what's the tag about showing a price of 3 pence?
No doubt the price tag of the muffler which the old Barbie purchased recently at a local market. And I presume you've observed the scar tied around his arm. Does that not strike you, Mr. Naruhodo?
Yes, the secret sign used by detectives to show that some criminal activity is currently underway.
Of course, because, as you know, there has been just such criminal activity happening here. As you deduced from the very beginning, detective.
So it would seem that we finally arrive at the truth. The waxwork of the especially ruthless killer from the special exhibit has been kidnapped. And Scotland Yard are already investigating. But the model's whereabouts remain a mystery. Thus concludes Sherlock Holmes' great deduction of this horrifying puzzle.
Still a mystery. Solved. Deduction complete. Elementary. Okay, I messed up. I'm really sorry. What is it? What was I thinking? I have really no idea what was I thinking.
All sorts of people visit my museum here, men and women, young and old. Sometimes they drop in just for a short time on their way back from the pub. I welcome them all. But if anyone tries to damage my exhibits, I do not take it lightly. Anyway, your great deduction was even more enchanting than I had been led to believe.
It was a pleasure, my dear madam. I'm gratified that you enjoyed the spectacle. And as for your rough customer, I've no doubt he'll regain consciousness shortly and return home. What concerns me more is the waxwork from the special display, if it was indeed genuinely abducted.
Yes, tragically it was.
Then I would ask you to recount to us the events surrounding the stolen waxwork, in as much detail as possible, if you please.
Very well. But after I have told you what I know, I must insist that you return to your work.
The talents of a great detective could be put to better use, I feel, but as you wish.
So, let's talk, dear madam. The stolen waxwork. Tell us more about the stolen waxwork, please.
It was some days ago now when I came in here one morning. I immediately noticed there was waxwork missing from the special exhibit here. It is your most prominent display, so that's why the curtain were closed. And I found a ransom note in its place.
The culprit must have broken in during the night and taken it then.
So this waxwork that was stolen, it was a model of some horrible criminal, I suppose. Of a particularly horrible criminal, in fact. The killer who left a more profound scar on society than any other, I would say, the Professor.
Not a name I've heard of.
So, Mr. Naruhodo, it seems the circle is complete.
Sorry?
The Professor case happened at around the time I was born, didn't it?
Indeed it did, Iris. 10 years ago, a series of murders that rocked the capital.
10 years ago?
Yes, at exactly the time that Barak von Zieks graduated from university, in fact.
What? Surely he's not saying...
So the big event that changed Mr. Reaper's life?
As you've surmised, it was the Professor case.
Who was this professor then? The professor, let's talk about him.
It was a series of gruesome murders that had all of London gripped in their terror a decade ago. After 5 victims were killed, the man was arrested and put to death.
And now he's immortalized here in wax for all Londoners to admire and enjoy. Though of course, he happens to be absent at present on account of the abduction.
But I don't understand. How is all this related to Lord Von Zieks?
You must first understand, my dear fellow, why it is that the Professor earned such infamy. It was due to the victims he chose, some of Whitehall's finest.
What do you mean, Hurley?
Those murdered by the Professor were some of the highest members of the British aristocracy. Members of the nobility, even royalty. It sent shockwaves through the country's administration.
Members of the... Oh wait, of course! What Professor Harebrained said. Lord Von Zieks is from a family with noble blood.
Oh gosh!
It was the 5th victim that led to the Professor's arrest. The last of the killer's prey was a young noble by the name of Clint Von Zieks.
No, I don't believe it, Von Zieks.
I'm sure you can piece together the rest for yourself. In the wake of his older brother's murder, the young Baroque pursued a career as a prosecutor, and eventually became the Reaper we know today.
I had no idea Lord Von Zieks had such a tragic past.
Well, I'm afraid that's all I can say on the matter, for the time being at least. After all, I have work to do. As a waxwork exhibit.
I am afraid I shall have to excuse myself as well.
Oh yes, of course, it's been a pleasure, thank you. Well, none of the predicted scenarios I've been analyzing involved you coming to visit me here. Oh! It's been too long, it really has! I'm delighted to see you, Baroque!
It's been 10 years, and here we are, meeting in a prison of all places.
I can't forgive myself for what happened to Mr. Asmund. I just can't. I still can't believe it could happen.
Tomorrow, the court will decide.
Yes! I have a young Eastern man acting for my defense. He seems reliable enough, though. It was an accident. A terrible accident. He assured me he can prove it.
I must warn you.
Oh, I know. I've heard already. You're going to be prosecuting, aren't you?
Yes.
Since I returned to England, I've heard lots of stories. Baroque, are you really...
What?
Never mind. I know that you have my best interests at heart.
My friend is on trial. I wouldn't entrust it to anybody else.
Of course, I fully understand. Thank you, Baroque.
Until tomorrow, then. I'll see you in court.
Alright. So this is a cliffhanger, right? But don't be scared, guys. There's going to be the next episode of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Resolve pretty soon, I promise. See you then.